Are you struggling with shame, blame, or judgment? You might have been taught that you need to sit with the feelings or talk them out, but there is a simpler step you can do before going deeper and risking re-traumatization. And that is putting together a newer, simpler, non-judgmental, and non-shaming narrative based on the science of the Polyvagal Theory. My name is Justin Sunseri. I am a therapist and the creator of the Polyvagal Trauma Relief System. Welcome to Stuck Not Broken, where I teach you how to finally get relief from trauma using clear language and practical techniques. This podcast is not therapy, nor is it intended to be a replacement for therapy. I'm going to have a few different things I go to in this episode. The first one is, what are people looking for when they find the Polyvagal Theory? Because this is going to connect directly to reducing your shame, your blame, and your judgment. Now, if you don't know what the Polyvagal Theory is, I would highly recommend you listen to episodes 101 through 109 of this podcast, or purchase my Polyvagal 101 course, or head to my blog, or read my Polyvagal Theory and Trauma free ebook. Right now it's free, at least, because I've gone way in depth into this, and I'm not going to be doing that in this episode, but go to those resources. I'll have a link to a couple of those in the description. Make sure you're caught up before you continue with this episode. You kind of have to know what the Polyvagal Theory is and get the basic idea of it. Otherwise, this is just not going to make sense. This new narrative that I'm talking about, this new narrative to reduce shame, blame, and judgment, is built on the knowledge of the Polyvagal Theory. So when I think that when people first get interested in Polyvagal Theory, they're looking for answers, probably on a professional level or on a personal level. There's a really good chance that you're either in your trauma recovery process, your journey, or you are a professional helping somebody on their journey. The person that finds the Polyvagal Theory, they want to know what to do with their trauma. I'm going to stick with the person on their personal journey. They want to know what to do with their trauma. They want to know how to make change. They find this theory and they see or feel or intuitively kind of know after learning it that there is something here. There is some avenue for learning about this and then applying it to themselves, applying that knowledge that they gain to themselves. This person on their trauma recovery journey, they want to identify their stuck defensive state, and then they want to climb their polyvagal ladder into their safety state. So they know it has something to do with their safety state. But they also, I think people really are gravitated or pulled towards this home away from home concept from Deb Dana, or like, what's my stuck defensive state? Where do I fit on that polyvagal ladder? So they want to learn and they want to apply and they want to build maybe some insight, if you want to call it that. So lots of top-down, knowledge-y kind of stuff. And yeah, I completely get that. Of course, that makes sense that you're looking for more information. You find the Polyvagal Theory and it's lots more top-down learning and applying of your new knowledge. And yeah, the Polyvagal Theory can help you to build some insight into yourself based on the theory. So it can help you to build some insight into those things, like what your stuck defensive state is, or how to access your safety state. But the Polyvagal Theory is not a prescription. I think that a lot of times we learn it and we think, well, therefore I must, do whatever. But it's not a prescription. It's science. It's not therapy. I think that's another misunderstanding. It's not therapy. It's science. It's knowledge. It's not medicine. And it's research. It is not technique. None of these things are prescribed. None of these things are set in stone. It's different for each of us. So there's different things, a lot of different things you can get from learning the Polyvagal Theory. And I want to tell you the real benefit of learning the Polyvagal Theory, or at least the most immediate potential benefit of it. Because the other things, the what to do with it, is not so super clear. Before getting to the real benefit of learning, or the most immediate benefit of learning the Polyvagal Theory, I want to ask you really quickly to subscribe or follow to this podcast. It would mean a lot. Thank you ahead of time. When you do that, it tells whatever platform you're on that this is worth other people finding it as well. So thank you for that. So the real benefit, or the real most immediate benefit to learning the Polyvagal Theory that I can see, the way that I understand it, is that you can apply it to yourself. There's a potential lasting impact of applying this to yourself. And when you do that, it opens up the potential for you to create a new narrative for yourself, a new story of your past, sure, but also a new understanding, a new story, a new narrative of your present as well. Before learning the polyvagal theory, you might have been looking at past events and blaming yourself. You might have been saying, well, why didn't I do this? Or why did I have to do that? There's always things to take responsibility for. Yeah, I mean, that's not what I'm talking about here. Taking responsibility for your choices, fantastic, great job. That's not what I'm referring to. It's assigning blame to yourself when maybe it's not deserved, necessary, or functional, or maybe it even works to instill a system in place that doesn't need to be in place. Like it solidifies a toxic environment or relationship when you accept blame. So that's what I mean. So you might be looking at past events or even present day events and blaming yourself. Not responsibility, but blame. And so I'm going to leave that up to you to kind of discern what that is. I can't go into this, obviously, or I can't go deeper into this for you in particular. So you'll need to discern what that is. What is responsibility versus what is blame? I could talk about that in a future episode maybe. But for now, take this idea of building a new narrative, and I want you to place it onto those pieces of blame that you're putting on yourself that maybe you don't deserve. Before the polyvagal theory, you might look at your present moment choices and you might blame yourself. And again, taking responsibility is fine, but that's different than a dysregulated cognition of blaming yourself. Saying I fucked up, I could do better next time, that's taking responsibility. That's fine. That's a lot different than saying it's my fault that my parents got divorced when I was younger. If you still believe that, or if you believed it in the first place, back when you were younger, that's probably not true. I would assume I don't think I ever blamed the children for that. But if you still believe that and you still blame yourself for something like that, then that might be something that learning the polyvagal theory, you might be able to apply that to your life and build a new story around that. And so it might become, well, my parents existed in a dysregulated state and were unable to stay together. And it had nothing to do with, me as a kid. Now, along with that blame, you actually might be shaming and judging yourself as well. It might sound like, I am such an idiot. Why do I always do this? Or I knew it, I'm unlovable and not worth anything. Now, after learning the polyvagal theory, you might be more open to a new way of viewing the past and the present, and maybe even the potential future that it may open up for you as well. So after learning polyvagal theory, then applying that knowledge to yourself, you might be able to say, oh, I was stuck in a freeze state, and that's why I couldn't speak up for myself. Or I was so dysregulated and overwhelmed that I let my boundaries slip again. That sounds like a lot less judgment to me. That sounds like someone who can look at things with a nice foundation of a new knowledge and apply it to that, those things, that context, and come away with a much less judgmental version of events. After learning polyvagal theory, you actually might realize that the people in your life, even your parents, they are or they were working from their own stuck defensive state. And maybe they simply were not able to care for you the way that you needed, the way you deserved, the way you were, needing. But, instead of blaming and judging and shaming them, and hey, maybe they deserved it, I'll put that out there. But after learning polyvagal theory, you might be able to look at your life context and say, well, I was surrounded by people that were in very dysregulated defensive states. And hey, maybe that's still true. Maybe in your present day, that is actually still true, is that these people are still in dysregulated, defensive, stuck states and still unable to provide co-regulation or connection or safety for you. So this is what I would want you to do with the polyvagal theory information, because trying to apply it to yourself and looking at the past can be very difficult. Now, I know that you want to, or probably want to, recover from whatever traumatized state that you're in. I know that you're ready to take the next steps. I do have you covered. I created something called the Polyvagal Trauma Relief System. And that is a comprehensive trauma recovery program. It takes you from the very beginning of learning polyvagal theory in depth in 2 hours to the middle phase, which is building the strength of your safety state, to the final phase, which is being able to actively, mindfully experience your stuck defensive state and allow some polyvagal ladder climbing to happen. So that's called the Polyvagal Trauma Relief System. I'll have a link for you in the description for that. But before that, before applying this polyvagal information to yourself, before attempting to recover from whatever traumatized state that you're in, I would encourage you to really let this polyvagal information, just let it settle. Take your time with it, let it settle, and see if you can learn it as deeply as you can. And then don't quite do anything with it yet. And I know that's kind of hard to do because it's exciting and you want to start applying this stuff, but let it settle. Sit on it for a bit. I can't tell you how long that is, but just sit on it, let it settle. Learn it as deeply as you can, spend some time with it, listen to my podcast episodes, read the original sources, and just sit with your learning. Don't sit with your feelings quite yet. You might not be there. Sit with your learning, just kind of learn it. And then once you think you understand it well enough, the next thing that you can do, or what I would encourage you to do, is to apply that knowledge to yourself in the present moment, not the past. Not the past, not yet at least, the present moment. Stick with the present moment. I think it's really easy to go into the past events, the past relationships, but I would encourage you to stay in the present moment. Just focus on here and now as much as you can. Apply this knowledge to yourself with as much curiosity as you can. That means you're anchored in your safety state. So from being anchored in your safety state, ideally, apply this with curiosity to your present moment self, not present moment, to the present moment, to yourself in the present moment, as best you can handle it. And then if you could do that, then you can build that new narrative of yourself through the lens of the polyvagal theory. So not in the past, but when you are ready to, yeah, we can apply this stuff to the past as well. But that I need you to make sure that you are ready for that. And then apply that polyvagal knowledge to those past contexts as much as you can handle it. A little bit at a time is completely fine. And then you can build that new narrative of yourself through the lens of the polyvagal theory those past contexts. I have 7 new narrative prompts for you. Do not answer these until you know you are ready to handle it and you're coming from curiosity. And you can use these for journaling if you like, or maybe just think about them as I'm saying them out loud. That might be just fine. You don't have to spend like a certain amount of time with it. Maybe it's just 30 seconds you think about it. That's fine. If you want to journal for 50 minutes, that's fine too. It's up to you. Notice what you can handle and run with it if you're capable of doing so. And if not, just come back to it. That's completely fine too. The first one is, how much access did you have to your safety state? And I'm going to ask that you apply these to whatever context you need to. I don't know your life. I can't do that. So if you have something in mind, something tolerable, something you can handle, then use these prompts. So the first one is, how much access did you have to your safety state? Second one is, was it realistic to be able to develop your safety state in that context, or to access it, or to use it? The third one is, how much access did other people have to their safety state? Were they able to provide co-regulation? Were they able to be empathetic and see that maybe you needed something else? Number 4 is it possible that you had to exist in a defensive state in that context? Number 5, is it possible you existed in a defensive state to get your needs met? Number 6, do you think that your body actually did its job by putting you into a defensive state in that context? And the last one, number 7, do you think that you had an impulse to connect with others in safety that maybe could not be returned by them? Now, for all these prompts to really click, you really have to have a clear understanding of the polyvagal theory and how it connects to trauma. I have my free book. I'll put a link in the description. I have my Polyvagal 101 course. I have episodes 101 through 109. So I have so much stuff out there for you to learn the polyvagal theory and connect it to trauma. So spend more time with that if that's where you're at. If you're just in learning and letting it settle, spend more time with it. And once you get that, once you're able to really get it, let it settle and then apply it to yourself, and you'll better be able to provide that new judgment and shame-free narrative for yourself. Otherwise, thank you so much for listening, fellow Stuckna. I do hope this episode has been a helpful resource for you in your process of learning and applying the polyvagal theory to your trauma relief. Bye.
This podcast is not therapy, not intended to be therapy or be a replacement for therapy. Nothing in this creates or indicates a therapeutic relationship. Please consult with your therapist or seek for one in your area if you are experiencing mental health symptoms. Nothing in this podcast should be construed to be specific life advice. It is for educational and entertainment purposes only. More resources are available in the description of this episode and in the footer of justinlmft.com.